Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again, and no, not really trying to clickbait here. It is essentially as close to a PoE build as you'll get in any other game that you could play that's similar to PoE. This is Diablo 2, still the season that I've been playing, and in this season a pretty overpowered rune word was introduced. That a lot of people jumped onto because it's just obviously blatantly strong, and that is the Mosaic rune word for Assassin. Essentially what it does is enable all of your martial arts skills from the martial arts Assassin build at once. So conventionally what you're supposed to do with your martial arts Assassin is run up, hit with a certain skill to gain charges. Once you have a certain amount of charges of that skill, you use a finishing move and unleash those charges, generating some sort of damage type of ability through that interaction, losing your charges and then having to build them up again to go with another attack. What this rune word does is give you 50% chance to not consume those charges, and if you wear 2 of them, that means you are never consuming any of your charges. And if you do that, you can continue spamming finishes to unload the skills that you've chosen, and when you spam finishes, it refreshes your charges as well. So as you can see, just for an example here, I built up 3 stacks of a certain lightning attack and then 1 stack of the meteor attack, and then I can just continually unleash on the boss. But for most normal clearing and gaming, you build up pretty much 3 stacks of all of your skills and then just keep unleashing, and it becomes pretty overpowered. I'm not quite sure why it exists, because it's not even super expensive. It's a Mal rune and a Gull rune, which, if you're unfamiliar, is 2 of the mid-tier runes, but on the high end. So of the rune system 1 to 33, it's 23 and 25. Getting a couple of those basically enables the build to become fairly god mode. Now, you can't really start a character like this. You will need to farm a bit for it, because it just won't feel good or won't really do much until you get both of the claws, both of the rune words. Once you enable one of the claws or one of the rune words, it starts to take off and become a bit more of a martial arts fun build. Once you get the second claw, second rune word, it becomes something entirely different and goes up by like 5 to 10 times in power. And then you are playing quite possibly one of the most powerful builds to ever exist in D2. Of course, like Hammerdin is still maybe seen as like the most powerful all-rounder, but that requires some serious gear to become really good. And then it's still not an all-rounder, essentially, like this one can be. This build is something that can end up clearing the entire game, farming really well, taking on all immunity types because you deal all damage types, and then it can also do uber bosses because it is still basically just a Kixin, and a Kixin is one of the best uber farming characters out there because you can stack Crushing Blow, applying that Crushing Blow through Kick very efficiently, and as well as that you can become pretty tanky with Fade, overcapping resists and well, I wouldn't really say overcapping resists in this case, getting more resists and also damage reduction. So the character's got a lot of damage reduction, it's got evade, it's got block, and it's got good resists, really good AoE damage, really good single target damage, and it doesn't cost too much to put together. All that combined, pretty OP build. You can see that in the current case of these this Terra Cow Zone, I am using 3 stacks of Phoenix Strike because there's a lot of icy bolts going everywhere. You basically choose between Phoenix Strike stacks, so you can stack up everything else to your maximum, but Phoenix Strike, if you only do 1 stack, then it'll keep unleashing the meteor for single target. If you do 2 stacks, it'll keep unleashing a lightning AoE, which is your best clear, and if you do 3 stacks, it will do these ice bolts that then help freeze, but they don't clear as well, they don't single target as well. And then you can see the comparison to the old D2 system, with how this would have looked back in the day. Pretty crazy, pretty ridiculous, and it is definitely a flashbang style build. But it's also nice to appreciate what the game looks like with this updated modern system. So all in all, it becomes a very fun build once it's online, and possibly one of the funnest builds you can currently do in D2. So they do still occasionally update with a few little additional rune words and stuff, and it's just pretty crazy stuff. I don't know what to say. It's like a PoE cast on crit build, and it is just a Diablo 3ified rune word. Just more power, I guess, for more power. It is a bit of a clumsy playstyle, and you are momentum based. This is an attempt at trying to face tank all of the Ubers. My first try at any of the Ubers on this league, this ladder season, and this character. I can't quite face tank them. I do have life tap coming from my gloves, which is like instant leech. But with Meph's conviction aura, I'm still at like minus 30 to all res. So gonna end up dying, and I think the life tap drops off in the end off of Bale, so yeah, it didn't work out. But you're supposed to basically split the Ubers up. If you're unaware of what the Ubers are, they are the last real sort of pinnacle of endgame content in D2. You farm up some key sets, you farm up organs that then, from those key sets, that then open up a portal to Uber Tristram, and then you fight Diablo, Mephisto, and Bale in a much more difficult setting. And you're supposed to kind of like split them up and then 1v1 them, and Crushing Blow is what takes care of them because it does 1% of their life. And yeah, just getting a teeny bit of Crushing Blow from the boots on this build lets you do Ubers pretty comfortably. Even without the Crushing Blow, you'll probably eventually kill them, but it does help to have that Crushing Blow. And then yeah, ends up taking down the Ubers and basically solidified that it can do all content comfortably and enjoyably. It's a fun build to play, and probably the last bit of D2 I'll do in a while. So just wanted to showcase the character and what it can do, and then the build in case any of you want to play this as well. So let me just go ahead and show you how the character is built. So it is of course a Diablo 2 build guide. It won't take very long. It's not super complicated. Level 88 at the moment, called Original Build, and it is, like I said, based entirely around the Mosaic claws, Mal, Gull, Am, put into a 3-socket claw. The base doesn't really matter too much, like you can get some additional skills to Phoenix Strike or some various things, but it honestly won't make almost any difference to the character in the end. I ended up getting Blades of Ice, Mind Blast, thinking I'd use some extra Mind Blast, doesn't really matter, and then one to Dragonflight on this one so that it saves you just a few points. So because of that, I've saved a few points. People try and conventionally get more Phoenix Strike skills, but I don't think it really matters too much either way. So to get some 3-socket claws, Mal, Gull, Am, as you can see, 50% chance finishing moves to not consume charges. So the way the build usually works is you got like fire skill, lightning skill, cold skill, a skill that can do a bit of everything, a bunch of leech and attack damage, and with any sort of those, you attack a few times and then use a kick move to finish and unleash those charges. So with this build, you instead have to like charge this up, charge that up, charge that up, charge however much of that up, that one, and then start kicking and refreshing every single time you kick. The only annoying part is that you've got 15 seconds window to attack something before all your charges fall off, and you have to charge up again. So that means you got to start like kind of rushing through various areas and various farm routes that you've picked for yourself. So it does get a bit clumsy sometimes, but that's the price you pay for massive amounts of power. You take just a point in like Claw Mastery, Burst of Speed, as much Fade as you want for being tanky, Weapon Block 1 point. So you can either run Burst of Speed for a lot of extra speed, or Fade is just kind of way too much value, so it's really hard to not take for all that extra resist, damage reduction, and curse duration. And we are kind of fast enough on this build running a hustle. So this is a semi-budget version build, running a hustle just for move speed, the evade, and some attack speed. We've got the 2 claws, got an angelic ring and amulet, running a Shaco with 15 all res in it. I think it currently is overkill having the all res. You could do lots of different helms though. Shaco's not really mandatory. I'm running Draculs for the life tap, though you don't really have to. You could just run something else. You get a lot of leech from Cobra Strike if you choose to use it, as long as you're not using lots of charges of Fist of Fire, because it does convert a lot of your damage into fire damage, which means Cobra Strike isn't going to be working as well. But I've still got life tap coming from these. Running String of Ears, just then got some Gore Riders, so most of the video I wasn't wearing Gore Riders, then I got some for Ubers basically, 15% chance Crushing Blow, and then I upped them using the cube recipe. And that's the entire gearing setup. We then got like some resist charms and shit, because I still kind of needed some resists. And yeah, whatever charms I found off the ground, an Annihilus, a Hellfire Torch. And then as far as the spec is concerned, you do basically try and max out Phoenix Strike. I maxed out Claws of Thunder because I wanted the AoE. Then I maxed out Blades of Ice for extra cold damage. Then I maxed out Fist of Fire so that you can get more meteor damage. Other than that, pretty much a point in everything. And then maxing out Fade as much as I can. As much strength as you need, as much dex as you need, and then the rest in vitality. Pretty easy stuff. Those are my resists without Fade. With Fade, it becomes that. So it becomes pretty tanky. And that's all there is to it. Not much else to say. Pretty OP item, pretty OP build. Very fun stuff. Hope this Diablo 2 content wasn't too painful to go through if you're just a PoE guy. But I do like me some Diablo 2. Actually, I also mentioned the Merc. I'm just using an Act 1 Merc with Vigor, bow, just so that we can run faster together, Dero's Shell, and a Bulwark. But yeah, I do like me some Diablo 2. Probably won't be playing it for a while now, even the next ladder reset, because I've had my fill for a while, but we'll see. I do like a little ladder reset, farm it up for a bit, and then put it down. Pretty fun to go through a few characters and just a bit of MF, but it is a very outdated game, in my opinion. A lot of the old systems just don't really hold up to modern ARPG systems, thanks to steps forward, but still a bit of fun to be had if you have some nostalgia. Or you can take it for what it is and ignore a lot of the painful stuff from the past that are still in the game. So that's Mosaic Sin, the most PoE build that has ever built in a build and game that isn't PoE. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.